I'm going to show you guys a working example of a minimal Hello World build system that you can use for Angular 2. And then you're going to build one from scratch. And it's going to hurt. It's going to suck. You might walk out, leave, tell Mark you're never coming back. But you're going to know how to do this. All right, this is like, you know, learning to build an app and stuff, it's really great if you have like some code there and you're going through some problems, but I think a build system, you should just build it from scratch. You just have to know how to build it from scratch, and you gotta figure this stuff out and run into the resources, which is the best way that I've learned how to manage the build systems.
So you don't recommend using a starter kit?
No, I do recommend using a starter kit after you already know what's going on, because if you just, we're gonna use a starter kit. This build system that you're gonna use now, we're not gonna use it, we're gonna throw it away. But it's gonna get you familiar with it. So when you use a starter kit, at least you'll know what's going on when the error is thrown. Like, I don't know what's throwing this error. Is it TypeScript? Is it Webpack? Is it? I don't know who's throwing this error. Like, this is going to help you get familiar with that, so you can like, you know, get familiar with your environment. Any questions? Okay, let's hop right into it then. Cool. So if you want, you can try to copy some of this, but just don't. Just challenge yourself. Don't worry about any of this stuff. You're going to build it from scratch. I'll leave it up as a reference. I'll probably push up to GitHub too. So what we're going to do is, I want everyone, it's finally working. I was trying to get this linter to work for like ever, and it's finally just kicked in. Sublime is so trippy. I don't know. So I want everyone to do is just make a new folder, make a new repo, right? It's brand new. This has nothing to do with what you guys are doing with Lucas. This is completely separate. If you feel like you already got modules or if you feel like you already got the build system down, you already know what you're doing, I don't know, then I guess you don't need to do it. But I'm guessing that it's pretty tough. It was tough for me. So just make a new folder, and inside that, just make a new app folder, and just put like a root.ts, and just write some TypeScript and some TypeScript stuff in there. Something that isn't going to run in the browser. Something that needs to be compiled. In my example, I just made an interface and a class that implements the interface. That's all I did. That's obviously not going to run in the browser. It obviously needs to be built. So that's what I put there. You can copy what I have if you want. But at minimum, that's what you'll need for this. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to walk you through, again, this is very minimum. This is not like a production level build system. Like, it's going to be way more than this. But this is like enough to get started, and really all you need to get going. And then you can add, depending on your project and what you're doing and what your team's needs are, you can add and take away things. But we're just going to cover like the full spectrum of the stuff that you're going to be using. So first, let's talk about probably the most important part, which is the bundler. Again, we're using Webpack. So the way Webpack works is you just create a webpack.config.js on the root of your repository, webpack.config.js. Right? And really all that does is just exports a module, an object that has this config. There's a lot of unimportant stuff in here, but really the stuff the only stuff you really need to know about as far as like getting it started is the entry. Because unlike loading script tags in the browser where there isn't a single point of entry, you're just loading everything up. In a module land, there's a single point of entry and everything is a tree. There's a dependency tree of modules. So you need to say, hey, where's the root? In this case, it's that file you just made. That's the root. So that's important. Also, this resolve block here, this is telling Webpack that, hey, these are the type of files that you can expect to see. Just let you know, by the way, just in case. Also, the other important thing here is the output, where to place the bundled files. So the path, which is the build folder, which you do not have to create. Webpack will create for you if it's not there already. And then the name of the bundle file, which is bundle.js, which is what most people use in Webpack, but it could be anything you want. And then the meat and the potatoes are right here. This module object, which, who here has used Gulp? Okay, so this is pretty much like a plugin place where you would do your Gulp plugins. So loaders are like plugins that transform your modules. So we have this loader called Awesome TypeScript Loader, whose job is to transform any file that has a TS extension on it, excluding these files. obviously you don't need to put this here because you don't have this in your repo, but I just want to show you an example of what exclude does. So this is just a regex. You can put file name, you can put whatever you want here, but a regex will obviously be more greedy and capture the stuff that you really want. And then this loader is an npm module that was loaded. So this isn't just some random thing that I installed. You can also just exclude the loader part and it'll still work. You don't have to put dash loader. It's like kind of like back in the days with Grunt, where Grunt didn't use require. Instead, you just had to give it a name and it figured it out. That's what this thing is doing. If you go look in my node modules, awesome TypeScript loaders right there. So it's coming from there. So it's not explicit like Gulp where you have to require it. It's being a little implicit here. So yeah, that's saying, hey, awesome TypeScript loader who, if you go look at this documentation, its job is just to compile your TypeScript for you. That's it. But I only want to do it on these files. Cool. And then this dev server here, again, this stuff is not really important as far as like getting started because you can really use whatever you want to serve it. But if you want to use the Webpack dev server, this is just an option that's saying, hey, history API fallback true. Yes?
There's just a quick question on any reason for using awesome TypeScript versus TS loader?
I was using TS loader for a while, but then awesome TypeScript, I heard about it and it was just awesome. So I switched over to it. I'll just show you why I use it. And then whoever asked that question could probably see for themselves. The first line that it says is the best TypeScript loader for Webpack. So
sold.
Yeah.
So you have to use it.
That's why I use
best.
it. It's the best one. Yeah, that was it. So when somebody comes out with another one that says even better than the best, I'll probably switch over to that one.
What are they going to do when they come up with the awesomer TypeScript loader?
I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, and I've had issues with the TS loader where I had to do like some manual configuration, like silencing different errors. It was just really fine grained. Whereas like awesome TypeScript kind of just knows what I want, and it just like here, man, here, I know what you want here. Whereas like the TS loader is like I don't know. So yeah, awesome TypeScript loader, but TS loader will work too. I've used it before. It totally works. Cool.
For this example you're going through right now, there's no repo to start from. You're walking.
Nope. There's no repo to start from. This is from scratch.
But it's not, because you already typed most of this.
I did, and I said you shouldn't be copying this, but you know,
You
if you're not confident about yourself, you can totally copy this, but it's still probably not going to work. Like most people are still going to run into an error. That's the whole point. I want you to run into an error and just be like, what's going on? That's the whole point.
Why are you using Webpack to run the compiler instead of, say, Gulp or npm?
Good question. I love Gulp. I use Gulp for everything. I actually use Gulp with Webpack. So the reason I'm not doing it is, one, I don't like putting everything in npm scripts. Just my opinion, but you totally could. Most of these tools here have command line options that you can just pass to npm scripts and just run it, boom, easily. Gulp is awesome too, obviously, and there's also plugins for that. But what about modules? That's the biggest thing about Webpack. It's going to polyfill CommonJS for you in the browser, whereas Gulp and npm scripts won't by default. You got to build that stuff yourself. So that's the biggest reason right there. It's just the modules. And because I'm already using Webpack for modules, I might as well use it for everything else too. But Gulp is still useful because, yeah, Webpack is great for doing everything related to your files and assets. But what about like one-off tasks that you need, like a deployment task or create documentation tasks or something like that? I usually use Gulp for that. And so what I do is I have Gulp orchestrate Webpack for me. That way I always interface with Gulp and Gulp handles everything. But there are arguments against that where it's like, oh, Webpack can build docs too. Yeah, it can. You could pretty much do anything, but again, it's your choice. I use them both and it works fine. So this is the bundler. And then typings, do not copy this. This was generated. Remember, typings is just like it's just a JSON file that's just going to tell your build tools, hey, these are the type definition files that I'm aware of, and I'm going to give you like really cool tools to use when you use these files, pretty much. You almost never have to come in this file and type stuff in manually. You use the command line tool, typings. Do -- help, and that's really all you need. It'll tell you exactly what to do. TS-lint is exactly what it sounds like. It's a linter for TypeScript. I don't know what everybody's using here, but I'm sure most major IDEs and text editors have a linter for TypeScript. And if you don't, just switch over to one that has one, like Atom or Sublime, WebStorm, I think even Visual Studio Code has one now, so you should be totally fine with that. Another TS file. It's like 3 of them so far. It's crazy, all these TypeScript files. This third one here is to how we configure the compiler. So what is actually reading this? Well, if you go to Webpack and look at the awesome TypeScript loader, this awesome TypeScript loader is using the TypeScript command line tool, which is using this tsconfig JSON file. It's just like, what? How would you know that? Yeah, so this is how you configure the compiler. You're giving it options like, you know, what am I targeting? Obviously, we're targeting ES5 because we want this to run in the browser. We could change this to target ES6, and it will compile it down to ES6, but then it wouldn't work in the browser, right? So we're going to target ES5. What modules do we want to use? There's different types of modules out there that I talked about. There's System.js, which is what JSPM uses, which is like actually the standard, which is the real thing. There's Require.js. There's so many other modules, and if you're using JSPM, you can make your own module system. So there's literally is an infinite amount of different type of modules that you can use. It's crazy. But we're using Common.js, which is not Require.js, although Common.js uses Require. So if you got those two mixed up, they're not the same. Okay? It took me a while to figure that out a long time ago. And then all this other stuff that's really not that important. This is just configuring the compiler. Again, you don't actually have to touch this either. There's a command line tool for TSC. If you don't have that, you can npm install globally TSC, and you can do -- help on that, and it'll also set this up for you. And that's really about it. So once you get, again, the only stuff you really need set up is this Webpack thing here, and then a file to build it. All this other stuff, I do recommend getting it set up though. You need to learn how to set up, because the beauty of TypeScript is the tooling. So if all you have is a bundler setup and you're not really getting the autocomplete and the linting and the recommendations and the pathfinding, then what's the point? So I do recommend setting up this other stuff, and that's what the point of this exercise is getting your environment set up so you feel comfortable with it and figuring out all the tools. Like I said, everybody's on a different environment, so there's gonna be different things, but most of it usually has these 4 files. The tsconfig, which configures the compiler, the linter, which configures the linter, typings, which configure where our type definition files are located, and our Webpack. And this is what typings looks like. If you use the typings command line tool, when you start downloading stuff, it creates this folder and just adds all this stuff in here. All types of crazy stuff. And then it will link them up to your typings.js. I just deleted everything out of mine to confuse you all. So yeah, that's why mine is empty.